Thera Santoni, circa 1600 BC. The Minoan eruption of Thera, located in the present-day Aegean Sea, was one of the largest volcanic events in human history, estimated at a volcanic explosivity index, VEI, of 7. The blast completely shattered the island of Santorini, ejecting an estimated 60 cubic kilometers of magma and rock into the atmosphere. The immediate structural collapse of the volcano's caldera displaced massive volumes of water, generating tsunamis that radiated across the Mediterranean. These waves, estimated to be up to 150 feet high, battered the northern coast of Crete, located 70 miles away. Historians and archaeologists link this catastrophic event to the rapid decline of the Minoan civilization, Europe's first advanced society. The ash fallout blanketed surrounding island settlements, destroying agricultural infrastructure and severely disrupting the maritime trade networks the Minoans relied upon for survival. Mount Agung, 1963. Mount Agung on the Indonesian island of Bali erupted violently after remaining dormant for over a century. The initial Fredic explosions in February 1963 were followed by a catastrophic Plinian eruption on March 17th. The volcano generated massive pyroclastic flows, superheated avalanches of gas, ash, and pumice that cascaded down the mountain's slopes at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. These flows bypassed the famous Besaki Temple but wiped out numerous surrounding villages, killing roughly 1,500 to 1,900 people. Mount Agung ejected approximately 2.5 to 3 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. This aerosol cloud circled the globe, absorbing incoming solar radiation and causing average global temperatures to drop by 0.1 to 0.4 degrees Celsius for the following year. Mount Nyiragongo, 2002. Mount Nyiragongo, located in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, contains an active lava lake with highly fluid, silica-poor magma. On January 17, 2002, a system of fissures opened on the volcano's southern flank. Because of the unusually low viscosity of the lava, it poured down the mountain at speeds up to 100 kilometers per hour, directly intersecting the city of Goma. The lava flow, measuring up to 2 meters deep and 1,000 meters wide, cut a path of destruction straight through the commercial center and the airport runway. While the death toll was relatively low, between 147 and 250 people, mostly due to carbon dioxide asphyxiation and building collapses, the infrastructural damage was absolute. Over 14,000 homes were incinerated, leaving roughly 400,000 residents displaced within a matter of hours. Mount Kelud, 1919. Mount Kelud in East Java, Indonesia, is notorious for its crater lake. When the volcano erupted on May 19, 1919, the extreme heat instantly expelled over 38 million cubic meters of water from this crater. The water mixed with volcanic ash, rock, and debris, creating massive lahars, volcanic mud flows with the consistency of wet concrete. These lahars funneled into the valleys surrounding the volcano, wiping out 104 villages and covering hundreds of square kilometers in thick mud. The disaster killed 5,160 people, most of whom were buried alive in their homes. In response to this specific event, Dutch colonial engineers constructed an ambitious drainage tunnel system through the side of the volcano to artificially lower the crater lake's water level and prevent future catastrophic lahars. Santa Maria, 1902. The eruption of Santa Maria in Guatemala on October 24, 1902, remains one of the 3 largest eruptions of the 20th century. After at least 500 years of dormancy, the volcano blew out its entire southwestern flank, leaving a crater 1.5 kilometers wide. The eruption generated a VEI 6 blast, shooting a column of ash 28 kilometers into the sky. Pumice and ash fell as far away as San Francisco, California, 4,000 kilometers to the north. In Guatemala, the ash completely blocked out the sun for days, devastating the region's coffee plantations and agriculture. An estimated 5,000 to 6,000 people died from the immediate explosion on pyroclastic flows, and the collapse of roofs under the immense weight of the accumulated ash. Mount St. Helens, 1980. Mount St. Helens in Washington state produced the deadliest and most economically destructive volcanic event in U.S. history on May 18, 1980. Following months of localized seismic activity, a 5.1 magnitude earthquake triggered the collapse of the mountain's bulging north face. This created the largest debris avalanche ever recorded, displacing 2.8 cubic kilometers of rock. The removal of this rock abruptly depressurized the highly gas-charged magma inside the volcano, resulting in a lateral blast. A supersonic cloud of superheated gas and rock exploded horizontally, flattening 600 square kilometers of forest, approximately 4 billion board feet of timber, in 3 minutes. The eruption killed 57 people, thousands of animals, and sent an ash cloud around the globe within 15 days. Huayna Putina, 1600. Huayna Putina produced the largest recorded volcanic eruption in South America on February 19, 1600. Located in southern Peru, the VEI-6 eruption expelled roughly 30 cubic kilometers of tephra. While the local devastation buried several cities in ash and killed an estimated 1,500 people, the global impact was far more severe. The sulfur emissions from Huayna Putina caused a significant drop in global temperatures. Historical records and tree ring data link this eruption to the Russian famine of 1601 to 1603, the worst in the country's history. The severe cooling caused widespread crop failures across Europe and Asia, resulting in the deaths of approximately 2 million Russians, nearly a third of the population at the time. Mount Unzen, 1792. The Mount Unzen disaster in Japan was primarily a structural failure triggered by volcanic activity. Following an eruption of the nearby Fugendake Peak, intense seismic activity weakened the adjacent Mount Mayuyama. On May 21, 1792, the eastern half of the Mayuyama Dome collapsed. An estimated 340 million cubic meters of rock plummeted into the Ariake Sea. This massive displacement of water generated a mega tsunami with waves reaching up to 100 meters high. The waves struck the surrounding coastal villages of Higo Province and Shimabara. The combined death toll from the landslide and the subsequent tsunami was precisely recorded at 14,524 people, making it the deadliest volcanic disaster in Japanese history. Laki, 1783 to 1784. The Laki eruption in Iceland was not a single explosion, but an 8-month-long fissure eruption known as the Skaftaraldar, Skafta fires. Beginning in June 1783, a 27-kilometer-long fissure opened, eventually pouring out 14 cubic kilometers of basalt lava. The primary killer, however, was the gas. Laki released 120 million tons of sulfur dioxide and 8 million tons of hydrogen fluoride. This toxic fog settled over Iceland, poisoning the soil and killing roughly 80% of the island's sheep, 50% of the cattle, and 50% of the horses. The resulting famine, known as the Moduhardindin, missed hardships, killed 20% to 25% of the Icelandic population. The sulfuric aerosol cloud drifted over Europe, lowering global temperatures, causing extreme weather patterns, and leading to widespread crop failures that historians suggest exacerbated the unrest leading to the French Revolution. Mount Pinatubo, 1991. Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines erupted on June 15, 1991, producing the second-largest terrestrial eruption of the 20th century. Following massive evacuations involving hundreds of thousands of civilians and the U.S. military at Clark Air Base, the volcano unleashed a VEI-6 eruption. It coincided with Typhoon Yunya, mixing massive amounts of ash with heavy rain to create deadly lahars that altered the local geography. Pinatubo injected 15 million tons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere. This formed a global sulfuric acid haze that increased the reflection of sunlight, cooling the Earth's surface by 0.5 degrees Celsius over the following 2 years and temporarily accelerating the depletion of the ozone layer. Despite the scale of the eruption, aggressive monitoring and evacuation protocols limited the death toll to 847. Nevado del Ruiz, 1985. The tragedy of Nevado del Ruiz in Colombia on November 13, 1985, was defined by lahars. The eruption itself was relatively small, a VEI3, but it occurred beneath the volcano's ice cap. The heat instantly melted the glaciers, sending a massive volume of water, mud, and debris rushing down the mountain's river valleys at 60 kilometers per hour. The town of Armero, located 50 kilometers away from the volcano, was situated directly in the path of the Lagunilla River lahar. At 11:30 p.m., while most residents were sleeping, a wall of mud up to 30 meters deep engulfed the town. Over 20,000 of Armero's 29,000 residents were killed instantly, pushing the total death toll of the event past 23,000. Mount Pelée, 1902. Mount Pelée on the Caribbean island of Martinique demonstrated the lethal speed of pyroclastic flows. On the morning of May 8, 1902, the volcano violently erupted, sending a nuée ardente, a glowing cloud of superheated gas, ash, and rocks, down its slopes at speeds exceeding 160 kilometers per hour. The temperature of the cloud was estimated to be over 1,000 degrees Celsius. Within 1 minute, the flow struck the coastal city of Saint-Pierre, the commercial capital of the island. The kinetic force flattened stone buildings, and the heat instantly incinerated everything in its path. Of the nearly 30,000 inhabitants, there were only 2 confirmed survivors: a man living on the edge of the city, and Ludger Silberis, a prisoner who survived because he was locked in a poorly ventilated, thick-walled underground dungeon. Mount Vesuvius, 79. AD. Mount Vesuvius is responsible for the most thoroughly documented ancient eruption. In the autumn of 79 AD, the volcano released a massive column of volcanic gas and ash, reaching 33 kilometers into the sky. For the first 18 hours, a steady rain of pumice buried the city of Pompeii, collapsing roofs and trapping residents. The subsequent phase proved fatal for the region. A series of 6 pyroclastic surges swept down the mountain. The first surge completely destroyed the nearby wealthy resort town of Herculaneum, killing residents who were waiting on the beaches to evacuate. Later surges reached Pompeii, instantly killing anyone still in the city through extreme heat exposure, thermal shock, and asphyxiation. The ash perfectly preserved the towns, leaving a death toll estimated at over 16,000 people. Krakatoa, 1883. The detonation of Krakatoa on August 27, 1883, remains one of the most violent geological events in recorded history. The Indonesian island effectively blew itself apart with an explosive force estimated at 200 megatons of TNT, roughly 13,000 times the yield of the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. The shockwave ruptured the eardrums of sailors 40 miles away and was heard as a series of loud gunshots in Alice Springs, Australia, 3,000 miles away. The collapse of the volcano generated a series of colossal tsunamis, with waves reaching 30 meters, 98 feet high. These waves decimated 165 coastal villages on the neighboring islands of Java and Sumatra. The official death toll recorded by Dutch authorities was 36,417, with over 90% of the casualties caused by the tsunamis. Mount Tambora, 1815. Mount Tambora, located on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa, produced the largest, deadliest volcanic eruption in recorded human history in April 1815, and it is the only confirmed VEI7 eruption since Lake Taupo in 180 AD. The explosion was heard up to 2,000 kilometers away. The immediate eruption and resulting pyroclastic flows and tsunamis killed approximately 10,000 to 11,000 people. However, Tambora ejected an estimated 100 cubic kilometers of material and millions of tons of sulfur aerosols into the stratosphere. This caused a global climate anomaly in 1816, known historically as the Year without a summer. Snow fell in June in New England, and persistent cold and rain caused massive crop failures across Europe and Asia. The resulting starvation, disease, and societal collapse pushed the total death toll to an estimated 71,000 to over 100,000 people globally. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.